I'm Eric Njoka and you're watching World of Africa on WION World is One. This week, Nigeria is fighting back against US President Donald Trump's claims. Nigeria says it would welcome assistance from the United States in fighting armed groups as long as its territorial integrity is respected. As US President Donald Trump continued to threaten military action in the West African country over what he claimed was a persecution of Christians there. We dissect the facts from the rhetoric and the noise. Welcome to the show. We begin in Sudan. The war, which has killed tens of thousands of people and displaced millions more over the past 2 years, has spread to new areas of Sudan in recent days, sparking fears of an even graver humanitarian catastrophe. After mediating in other conflicts in Africa and West Asia in recent months, the US administration under Donald Trump is pushing for a ceasefire in Sudan. The US Senior Advisor for Arab and African Affairs, Masad Boulos, said that efforts are ongoing to reach a humanitarian truce in Sudan as the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces agreed to an initial plan in principle. Here is our cover report.
Horror, pandemonium, and fear. Sudan's paramilitary force unleashed terror on Darfur's El Fasher, turning the city into hell for the inhabitants who had to flee in their thousands. Men were executed, others crushed to death in broad daylight. The world was angered and infuriated. Days after the massacre, their chief, Daglo, had this to say.
Our people of Al Fasher should come back and we should stand by them. We should bring back the people so that Al Fasher gets back to its former state. There are violations that took place in Al Fasher. From here, I announce the formation of an investigation committee. Our announcement is not mere talk. No, the committee has arrived to Al Fasher now.
The two main warring parties, the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF, and the Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, are controlling different parts of the country. The army, mostly the country's east, and the RSF, mostly the country's west, including the Darfur region. Both have been ramping up gold production throughout the war and are using it to fund their war efforts. Gold is increasingly being smuggled across the border into neighboring countries like Egypt. It's also one of the ways global players such as the United Arab Emirates are entangled in the conflict. Dubai reportedly provides weapons like drones in return for gold. Artisanal gold mining is widespread across much of Sudan, used to employ more than 2 million people and produced about 80% of the gold extracted nationwide, and that's according to experts. Sudan is one of the world's poorest countries, and mining remains a source of fast profits, attracting many. The industry has flourished since oil-rich South Sudan broke away in 2011 during the rule of now ousted President Omar al-Bashir, a period marked by economic hardship, government mismanagement, corruption, and international sanctions. In 2019, Sudan's now deposed transitional government issued a decree banning the use of mercury and cyanide after protests against their use at gold mines. The decision has rarely been enforced, and miners continue to use the chemicals in more secluded outlying areas. political and economic turmoil in Sudan has piled pressure on households already struggling to make ends meet. The country's economic crisis worsened after an October military coup led by Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. And then later, the war broke out. The coup and subsequently the war triggered cuts to crucial international aid and fed into spiraling prices of basic commodities. Sudan was one of Africa's top gold producers, generating 30.3 tons of gold in the first half of 2021 alone, according to official figures which do not include the artisanal output. The central bank put Sudan's gold revenues in the first quarter of 2022 at $720 million, reflecting the official output. And then the war broke out and everything was lost. The state-run company supervising mining activities declined multiple requests for comment. The lucrative business has long been controlled by shadowy companies with links to the security services which flourished under Bashir. And now the businesses which fled the country have now full control and backing from the army and the paramilitary. The industry is now in limbo and has become a huge prey for both al-Burhan and Daglo's men. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
Officials and experts in Nigeria denied Trump's claims of mass killings of Christians, noting that Boko Haram and Al-Qaeda-linked groups target people of all faiths in Africa's most populous country. But Trump, who has directed his government to prepare for possible fast military action in Africa's most populous country, doubled down on the threat, saying he was considering a range of military options in Nigeria. The West African nation is home to more than 200 million people. It is divided between the largely Muslim north and mostly Christian south. Our correspondent Louisa Olani with more details.
Killing record numbers of Christians.
It was this truth post by U.S. President Donald Trump which ignited all the heat in the West African nation. The U.S. government will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria, Trump said. If the United States sends in military forces, it would go in, guns blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities, Trump wrote. Without providing any evidence of specifics about the treatment of Christians in Nigeria, Trump called Nigeria a disgraced country and warned its government must move quickly. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians, he wrote. Before Trump posted his attack threat, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, a Muslim from southern Nigeria who is married to a Christian pastor, pushed back against accusations of religious intolerance and defended his country's efforts to protect religious freedom. When making key government and military appointments, Tinubu, like his predecessors, has sought to strike a balance to make sure that Muslims and Christians are represented. Last week, Tinubu changed the country's military leadership and appointed a Christian as the new defense chief. Nigeria, a country of more than 220 million people and around 200 ethnic groups, is divided between the largely Muslim north and mostly Christian south. Islamist insurgents such as Boko Haram and Islamic State West Africa Province have wrought havoc in the country for more than 15 years, killing thousands of people, but their attacks have been largely confined to the northeast of the country, which is majority Muslim. While Christians have been killed, the vast majority of the victims have been Muslims.
Nigerians must not also forget that we've also gone to other countries to tell their leaders to do right. So let's not be hypocrite in this matter. What some of us will not support is anybody deciding who should be our leader. It's purely a Nigerian thing. But if they are reminding us that what is accepted in our constitution, what is acceptable in other standards, we should do it. If we say they shouldn't, then we should also say that the Americans should have nothing to do with us. We can't receive their aid and say they shouldn't be worried about things that are going on among us.
All we want is, what do you do with the people that have been killing? Is our concern. not denial. Nobody can deny. But most of the people that are being killed, up to today, we are still having the pains. But the issue of what do you do with the people that have killed those that are loved ones?
In central Nigeria, there have been frequent clashes between mostly Muslim herders and mainly Christian farmers over access to water and pasture, while in the northwest of the country, gunmen routinely attack villages, kidnapping residents for ransom. Research by U.S. crisis monitoring group ACLED shows that out of 1,923 attacks on civilians in Nigeria, so far this year, the number of those targeting Christians because of their religion stood at 50. Analysts say recent claims circulating among some U.S. right-wing circles that as many as 100,000 Christians had been killed in Nigeria since 2009 are not supported by available data. The militant groups operating in Nigeria have taken advantage of porous borders to move between neighboring countries, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger.
Countries have a duty under the genocide conventions. The rulings of the International Court of Justice are to the effect that violations of the Genocide Convention are so grave and of common concern to the international community as a whole that you don't, to institute an action, you don't necessarily have to be affected by the alleged atrocities, as we have seen in the case of South Africa and the Gambia and Myanmar and other cases that have been brought before the court.
Analysts say militants have capitalized on loose borders to help finance their operations and recruit, preying on youth, particularly those who live in impoverished and neglected rural areas.
Presently, a few media reports speculate that about 12 northern governors and some ministers are due to be sanctioned by the US. There's also reports that Chad has closed its border with Nigeria due to the US invasion threat, with fears that terrorist elements might try to flee into Chad during a potential conflict. It has, however, brought a common ground for some armed groups in the country, as southern-based groups have said they will fight if American military sets foot on ground to disrespect the country's sovereignty. Whatever these actions are leading to, the ultimate should be that the over 2 decades of senseless killings across the country be brought to an end. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olaniyi, WION, World is One.
On October 31st this year, the United Nations Security Council adopted a resolution sponsored by the United States extending the mandate of the United Nations mission for the referendum in Western Sahara for a further year. The resolution was widely interpreted as an endorsement of Morocco's position on the Western Sahara issue. Since gaining independence in 1956, Morocco has asserted sovereignty over the disputed territory and has officially incorporated approximately 80% of its land, maintaining effective administrative and military control. Algeria, a long-standing supporter of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Sagia el Hamra and Rio de Oro, or Polisario, voted against the recent Security Council resolution. Here's a report.
Morocco's king lauded the UN Security Council decision as historic to support his country's plan for Western Sahara, a disputed territory that has provoked decades of conflict between Rabat and the Sahrawi independence movement. Polisario, backed by Algeria.
It is a true source of pride that this historic change comes at a time when Morocco is commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Green March and the 70th anniversary of its independence. On this occasion, I am pleased to share with you the sense of satisfaction inspired by the content of the latest UN Security Council resolution.
Morocco will proceed with the updating and detailed formulation of the plan to submit it at a later date to the UN. The monarch added that the framework would serve as a realistic and applicable solution that should constitute the sole basis for negotiation. This decision created a frenzy in the Moroccan capital. Thousands of singing, dancing Moroccans took to the streets in the capital Rabat to celebrate a UN Security Council vote backing the country's plans for the Western Sahara, disputed for half a century.
It is a historic day, a day of joy, a day of happiness, a day when truth and justice have triumphed. Today, the entire world is convinced that the autonomy plan is the one and only solution to end this 50-year-long conflict.
The victory achieved today by Moroccan diplomacy, under the leadership of His Majesty the King, through the UN resolution, is a victory for justice, a victory for Morocco, from Tangier to La Guira.
Algeria's ambassador to the United Nations, however, said his country chose not to take part in a UN Security Council vote to signal its disagreement with a US-backed resolution, endorsing Morocco's autonomy plan for Western Sahara as the most feasible solution to the long-running dispute.
Through that absence and acting fully responsibly, Algeria wanted to illustrate the distance that we put between ourselves and the text, which does not sufficiently reflect the UN doctrine with regard to decolonization.
Qui ne reflète pas fidèlement.
The Western Sahara is a vast mineral-rich former Spanish colony that is largely controlled by Morocco but has been claimed for decades by the pro-independence Polisario Front. The Security Council had previously urged Morocco, the Polisario Front, Algeria and Mauritania to resume talks to reach a broad agreement. But at the initiative of US President Donald Trump's administration, the Council resolution supported a plan, initially presented by Rabat in 2007, in which Western Sahara would enjoy autonomy under Morocco's sole sovereignty. King Mohammed said, Trump's efforts have paved the way for a final settlement of this conflict. In a televised speech on Friday, the Moroccan monarch invited Algeria's President Abdelmadjid Tebboune to engage in dialogue.
I invite my brother, His Excellency President Abdelmadjid Tebboune, to engage in a sincere fraternal dialogue between Morocco and Algeria, so that, once our differences are overcome, we may lay the foundations for a new relationship based on trust, brotherhood, and good neighborliness.
The resolution, adopted with 11 votes in favor, none against, and 3 abstentions, states that autonomy for Western Sahara under Moroccan sovereignty could serve as the basis for negotiations to end the 50-year conflict. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.
Let's head to Central Africa. Within Kavira Mukata, an amputee herself, now creates prosthetic limbs in Congo, aiding others affected by the region's ongoing conflict and giving them hope to leave. Here is her story.
Wivine Kavira Mukata was in the kitchen preparing plantains and fish soup for her family on the day in February 2014 when a bomb tore through her home in Beni in eastern Congo's war-hit North Kivu province. Both her parents were injured in the attack, attributed by Congolese authorities to Ugandan rebels, and Mukata needed to have her leg amputated just above the knee. The treatment she received at the Shirika la Umoja Orthopedic Center in the city of Goma and at a second facility in Bukavu, where she was given a prosthetic limb, changed the course of her life. While she had previously dreamed of becoming a computer scientist, she decided instead to get certified as an orthoprosthetist, designing artificial limbs as well as braces and splints for those who have suffered injuries like hers. There was a moment that changed me when I saw a patient standing, happy, smiling, even though he had once been sad and hopeless because he was a double amputee. He had been really worried and unhappy, but when he tried on his prosthetic legs for the first time, he was so happy. That's when I told myself deep inside, this is what I'm meant to do. She returned from her training in Togo in December 2024, just in time for another cycle of violence in a region upended by conflict since the 1994 Rwanda genocide. The following month, the M23 armed group seized Goma and went on to take Bukavu in a lightning offensive that has killed thousands of people and displaced hundreds of thousands of others. It has made for a busy period for the Shirika la Umoja Center, whose name means Community Leads to Unity in Swahili. It is the only center in Goma, Eastern Congo's biggest city, that provides comprehensive services to amputees, including orthotics, prostheses, wheelchairs, and mental health sessions. Some 722 people received prosthetics at the center in 2024. Through September of this year, 524 people benefited from some form of physical rehabilitation, including 143 who received prostheses and 192 who received orthoses, externally fitted devices that help a body part move or recover from injury. Persistent insecurity has made it difficult for other would-be patients to reach the center. Mukata has been there, daily working on prosthetic limbs and other devices and helping patients along a journey she began herself more than a decade ago. At the very least, I'm able to connect easily with the patients. I talk to them, to those who are depressed, who have lost confidence, who think their life is over. I'm able to motivate them. I tell them, yes, you've been amputated, but life goes on. There were some people who made fun of me right after my amputation. You know, saying things, acting like they were better, the kind of gossip girls do. But then there was my family, who stood by me, encouraged me, and told me, we still love you, despite your lost leg. In the courtyard of the Shirika la Umoja Center, which was founded more than 60 years ago and became an official partner of the International Committee of the Red Cross in 2014, amputees spent a recent morning trying out crutches and wheelchairs between physical therapy sessions. Inside, doctors consulted with patients, taking measurements so that other staff members could weld and mold their new limbs. When she is not at the center, Mukata lives on her own and prides herself on being independent. Africa Bureau, WION World is One.
And that's all the buzz in Africa this week. Get in touch with us on all our social media platforms and our website and share your story from the continent with us. Would love to hear from you. I'm Eric Njoka. Thank you for watching this week's episode of World of Africa on WION World is One. It's goodbye from me.